Hey everybody, PokerDad here. Welcome to another poker study video. This video we're going to be talking about SPR pots and looking over some hands that qualify as SPR pot hands. This has been my study focus for the week and wanted to wrap it up with posting a video about it. So first I wrote this quick synopsis on SPR pots, which I'll read to you guys. An SPR pot is a pot where the effective stack is 3 big blinds or less. In the situation of an SPR pot, if the effective stack is 3 big blinds or less, then we are pot committed with top pair or better. Just because we have a top pair does not mean we need to go all in on the flop. We can size our bets accordingly to get it all in by the turn or river. That being said, we should still be hand reading the situation and not just go all in because it's a low SPR pot. Another thing we can do is shove all in as a bluff on the flop. To do this, we need to look at the board and see how well it might connect with our opponent. Most times we should be able to get folds here if it makes sense. If we are in a low SPR pot, but we don't have top pair or better, we need to be careful because our opponent can shove all in at any moment. We need to be careful there with hands like second pair or worse, or hands that aren't one card to a flush or straight. Another thing we need to look at is stacks pre-flop when making a pre-flop decision. If we see that we might end up in an SPR pot in a flop, and we have a hand that we won't feel comfortable in an SPR pot, like a suited hand for example, it would be better to flat call than 3-bet our opponent. The same can be said for players who are left to act. If there are players who seem to call way too often and they are short stacked, we'd be better off not 3-betting some of the time. As for low SPR pots, they're seen most frequently in 3 and 4-bet pots. So that is my synopsis on SPR pots. So now I'm going to go over hands in my database and we'll take a look at them one by one. Some will be quick, some will not be quick. One thing I forgot to mention that synopsis, of course, when bluffing is we need to make sure we have the proper fold equity, and we'll go over that in the video. So I'm not going to, so all these hands here, I didn't exactly play in the right way, but that's what the whole purpose of this exercise is then look back at hands and see how we did and see what we would do in this particular situation. More so than the results, we're going to focus more on the process here. So here, first we start off with ace king, and like I said, a lot of times this is going to come in 3 and 4-bet pots. I am converting to BB because that is the best way for me to do this. Especially when figuring out the fold equity, BB is just a lot easier to calculate. So here, of course, we're going to 3-bet here, and we get a call. So right here, you can see I'm just going to take out the calculator. Actually, I didn't have it opened up, so just so you guys can see the SPR. By the way, I apologize for any background noise. It's a Saturday, everybody's home. But I am poker dad, not poker single guy. So here's 122.80. I'm sorry. The effective stack, I wasn't paying attention. So the effective stack here, by the way, is 62.20 BB. So you're always going to take whoever has the lowest stack on the table to figure out what the effective stack is. So 62.20, and we're going to divide that by the pot size. So as you can see, this is a SPR of 2.85. But as you can see here, we did miss this board. So the question becomes, what do we do here? Well, our opponent checks, so we have the option here. We could always shove bluff, or we can check back. And if we hit like a king or an ace on the turn, we could always shove him all in. So the first question becomes, if we shove them all in now as a bluff, do we have fold equity? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, just looking at this hand, I don't think we have much fold equity with the queen, the 9, and the 7. But let's just take a look, okay? This is a great example already. So we have ace king, and our opponent we don't have much info on this opponent. So when we don't have a lot of info on somebody, let's see. The pre-flop action was he 3-bet us. Let me just double check. I don't remember. No, he called our 3-bet. He was a 20 through 20 hands. We don't have much info on him, so we'll just give him a pretty standard. I'll give him 6% or so, right? So let's just see what would happen here if we decided to shove. So the first thing we need to do is we need to put in the hands here on the flop, which is 9 blue, 9 blue, queen black, and I think it was 7 red. 7 red. So if we shove here, we need to figure out what exactly he is going to be calling with. He's going to be calling with sets of queens and sets of nines. Top pair over pairs. I mean, 2 pair he wouldn't have. And he'd most likely call with his top pairs. There are no flush draws here, so I don't think he'd be calling with any of that other stuff. And what's pocket pair below top pair? Jacks and tens. So it's conceivable this guy could be. I had him marked as a recreational player probably because he came in short stacked to begin with. So players like this usually would actually call hands like this. So when we look at that, we can see that our opponent would be calling 71% of his hands, which only gives us 100 minus 71 is 29% fold equity. So let's just take a quick look at the fold equity calculator here, and you'll see that this is probably not going to be profitable. So the pot size before we shove is 21.8. So we'll put a 21. This, by the way, is a fold equity calculator. It's a free calculator on redchippoker.com, and it's a really great calculator to figure out break-even percentage. And here, especially obviously, this is great for knowing if it's a good shove or not. How much would we be shoving total? So I already know the answer to this, but I just want to show you guys. So we'd be shoving 62.20. So we'll put 62. And our equity, if we are called here, would be 14%. So it's saying we would break even if our opponent folds 67% of the time. And as we can see here in this example, he's only folding 29% of the time. So it would not be a profitable shove here. So it would be a pretty bad bluff. There are good chances that he would call with most of his range here. So this is a hand that we should definitely not be shoving. And then we could take it to the turn and see what happens. A 3 comes out, and again, now he puts out a bet here, and of course we're just going to fold or call. Okay, yeah, I called here just because I did this as a probe defend. And then the king came out. So this is an interesting situation, because here's a situation where we can put him all in. He checks, and I think this is probably a good spot here to push him all in. If we push him all in, let's just take a look at this, okay? Let's say he probed us with the entire, well, we don't even need to look at that. We could just say that he's only going to be calling probably with a set. He doesn't really have many 2 pairs here, except for maybe king-queen, but we're blocking a king because we have a king as well. So we could definitely just shove here. So I didn't shove him. So really, I should have shoved him here all in. He folds anyway, but it should have been a shove there. All right. Oh, I forgot to do this. All right, hang on. Okay, here we have king queen off. I actually looked at this hand yesterday. So I 3-bet him, and he 4-bets me, and I call the 4-bet. So this is a pretty clear SPR pot here. The effective stack here is 75, which is me. And as you can see, 75 divided by 50, oops. 75 divided by 50 is 1.5 SPR pot. So I have the option here to shove right now as a bluff. But, without even looking at this, we can see that's not going to be the right play because there's an ace out here, and he 4-bet, and he could easily have an ace, and we're never getting aces to fold on a shove. So I check, and now he checks back. So when he checks back here, we know he doesn't have an ace, because unless he's going to be slow playing aces, we can feel pretty confident he doesn't have an ace. So a 7 comes out here, and I decide to throw out a probe bet here, expecting to get a fold, but our opponent calls. So we could pretty much assume this opponent probably has like, you know, could have pair of kings, pair of queens, pair of jacks, something like that. You know, I don't think he really has like any draws or anything like that, because if he had like, say, a hard flush draw, most of his flush draws would include an ace, so that he would have 4-bet. So it's more likely he has kings or queens or jacks or something like that, some kind of pocket pair. So when a 4 comes out here, I think we have pretty good fold equity here to shove. This is 1 card to a straight. Plus, you know, we could easily have an ace as we bet the turn. Checking the flop obviously is pretty standard out of position to the pre-flop aggressor. So we could easily have an ace here. So I think this is definitely a great spot here to get a fold. But let me show you why it is. So let's put him on a range. So let's say that he has hands, like I said, king, queen. We're going to say he doesn't have any aces. Let's say in the off chance he has like king, queen suited, which is maybe possible that he would 4-bet. Let's say he has some, like, maybe he has some bluffs too. Okay, maybe he has some 4-bet bluffs like 8-7, 8-7, 7-6. We want to do hands like that possibly. Then he could have some kind of bluffs like that. But we're fairly confident he doesn't have an ace. He definitely would have bet the ace, and these calls would make sense here, especially if he has hearts here. Let me just give hearts to this. Okay. King queen, would king queen really make it that far in a hand? Probably not, unless it was hearts as well. Although you would expect these hands possibly to raise, but we don't know what kind of player he is. So let's just go look at the flop first. The flop is ace 5-6. I'm sorry, my memory is so bad sometimes. Six. Okay, and this is all fine. Oh, the 6 he can't. All right, so the 6 he can't have. So obviously, then we got a 7 of clubs. Same thing we're bringing along here. Flush draw. Gut shot. Maybe gut shot calls here too, but we got pocket pair, bullet top pair, so same thing. Okay, so now let's get to the river, which is a 4 of diamonds. Okay, so what is he calling a shove here to? Well, definitely a straight. So I think he's folding all of these here on a shove. You want to make the argument maybe he'll call a king or a kings and queens. Okay. Oh, by the way, I guess it would help to have the correct hand here. Okay. So let's say that he's calling a straight and he's calling kings and queens, all right, and he's folding the other stuff because he's pretty sure I have a straight or I have aces that I check the flop and then bet the turn with. All quite possible. So as you can see, we have 0% equity, but our opponent is folding a ton here. Our opponent is folding 74% of the time. So let's go take a look at the calculator now. So the pot size before we shove here is 102.40. So we'll put 102. And how much are we shoving here? We are shoving 49, which is my, as you can see here, is what I have left, 49. And our equity, if we are called, is 0%. So as you can see here, we break even if our opponent folds 32% of the time. And as we said, right here, our opponent is going to be folding 74% of his range. So that would make this a profitable shove. I hope you guys understand that, is that, because of the fact that our fold equity is 32%, and we need him to fold at least 30% of the time to make this profitable. He's folding 74% of his range here. It makes it a profitable shove. If he calls and he beat us, so be it. But we can do this so many times, and we will still profit in the long run. So I do shove, and he folds. So it was a great hand. Actually, I love this hand because he literally thought about it till like the very last second. Okay, let's look at the next hand here. Here we have King Jack suited. Hang on, you guys can't see the HUDs, but it's all in the way here. All right, so here we have King Jack suited. We're playing in a full ring. We raise it up here, and we get a call. So this call came from a short stack player. So first, let's take a look at the SPR. This is an interesting situation, as you can tell. So the SPR here, the effective stack is 29.35 divided by 10.5, so it's a 2.79 SPR. So this qualifies, of course. And we have flopped a straight. So this is an interesting situation, and something I used to do in the past is I used to just shove all in here. My stack is 131.90. But I have learned now that really my goal is just to get it all in by the river here. So he checks to me here. So I need to get it all in by the river, and I don't want to scare him off here. So I could do a pot size bet here and then bet larger on the turn and still get it in. If I said, let's say I put in a bet here of 5. Let's see, 29.35 minus 5. And let's say then 24.13. 24 divided by 2. Let's see, 25. And I put in like another $10 bet, and then maybe I went all in by the river, something like that. Might be the best way to play this hand here. If I shove all in, there's a good chance he's probably going to fold here. He limp called. So this doesn't really hit his range too well. He's going to be doing this more with like middling type hands here. So I think shoving all in here is just most likely going to get a fold. And this is the opposite situation. We don't want him to fold. We want him to call. So it's the opposite of fold equity. What can we get him to call with here? So a smaller bet would probably be the best idea here. I throw out a half pot bet, which I think is fine. I could even bet a little bit smaller if I wanted to, but half pot bet obviously is perfectly fine. And he calls it, which is great. So still, I got to get this all in by the river. The jack makes it, of course, a lot tougher now because now all I need is a king for a straight. So it kind of takes away from my hand the fact that a jack comes out here. It's making it a little bit tougher for me to get this whole stack in, of course, because now he's going to be scared off by the fact that I could have a straight, unless hopefully he has an 8. But I do decide to shove all in here, and I think this is the right play, is to shove all in here instead of waiting for the river. But he folds it, so I'm not sure. Maybe I should have. Let's see. At 24 left, it was 21 to pot. Maybe I should have bet about 14 big blinds and then got it all in by the river. Maybe if I bet 14 big blinds here, he calls. I think my biggest fear here was the fact that now it's 4 cards to a straight. God forbid if a king comes out here, we're chopping, or if he has an ace, he has a better straight. So this was kind of for protection in a way also. Not only that, but also with it being 2 flush draws on the board, I didn't want to get sucked out by a flush draw, so that was another reason why I shoved here. Now it's more for protection, and if we think about it that way, yeah, it's the right play, because we don't want to get sucked out by a flush draw here. Okay, here we are looking at 10-10, again playing full ring, and here we raise it up for the limpers. But all these pots we're looking at is just heads up pots. So here we hit a set. So this is another great opportunity to bet for value, possibly get it all in. So this is interesting because these hands are so much better than top pair. Do we always want to get it all in? It really depends on the flop texture. And again, this flop texture here with King 10 9 really favors me so much more than it favors him that a lot of times he's going to fold here unless he's on a draw. And this time here we have a 10 of hearts here, so it makes it a little bit less likely that he may be on a heart draw. As we can see, first the effective stack is 33.15 divided by 15. So it's a 2.21 SPR pot, 2 SPR pot. So here, this is another situation here where I don't think I need to bet big. I just want to bet enough to be able to get it all in by the river, which shouldn't be too hard. I do bet 10 big blinds, so I could have definitely bet a little bit smaller here, but he calls it, which is great. Then the flush comes out. So I could do one of two things here. I can shove him, or I could just bet small again and trying to get it all in. But now it becomes a little more scary with the hearts, with there being hearts at it. But again, I don't think he would have hearts here because I'm blocking heart. But I mean, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. The other good news here is that I could always improve to a full house on the river as well. If I shove here, though, the only problem is if I shove here, he's definitely folding if he doesn't have hearts. There's no way to keep him in. So the only way to keep him in is going, and I'm not really worried about a fourth heart coming out unless he has a better heart than a 10. The only way to keep him in is probably to bet half of his stack here. So if I bet like 23 divided by 2, so if I bet about 11 big blinds, that'll keep him in, that we can get it all in by the river. I bet 20, I don't know what I was thinking. Obviously I was not looking at his stack because I would have bet smaller or went all in there. But either way, this just again shows he didn't have hearts, which made it a little bit more difficult, the fact that a heart came out. It cost me value. If it wasn't a heart, I probably would have been able to get more value from this hand. Next we have ace-10. So as you can see, I was playing some full ring for a little while. Here I raise it up. And we get a 3-bet here from the small blind. And I call with my ace-10 suited. So here this is an interesting one because, this isn't like we were dealing with a short stack. But because we're playing full ring and because there were limpers, this actually makes it an SPR pot. The effective stack is 98.7 divided by 33, so it's 2 point. It's literally 3. So this is about the cutoff to where we're an SPR pot. So we don't really have to be so pot committed here. But let's take a look and see what happened here. As you can see, so he's a pre-flop aggressor here. As you can see, we have missed this board. All we have is a backdoor flush draw. So he bets here, and being in position, backdoor flush draw would definitely be the proper call here. Even though he bet full pot, I remember this hand. I remember this particular player, which is kind of betting really large with no matter what their holdings were. So I wasn't as concerned about pot odds. Plus, this player was very bluffy. And obviously we couldn't raise here all in as a bluff because, jacks and queens are easily in this player's range. And we're never going to get them to fold jacks or queens here, of course. Queen jack, if it's ace queen, ace jack, he's not folding to a shove. So we have very little fold equity here. 4 comes out, and our opponent checks. And this time, I put in a bet of 49.5. See here, I would have liked to just see me shove because I think when my opponent checks here, at the very best, he's got maybe a pair of jacks. I don't think he has a pair of queens. I also don't think he has a flush draw because I think a flush draw is definitely going to bet here when a 4 comes out because a 4 is not a scary card at all. So if I shove all in here, we could get him to fold these jacks. So let's just take a look here. Forget about what I did. And again, let's see if I had the fold equity to do this. So if I remember correctly, the pre-flop action was he 3-bet me. So let's give us ace-10. And we'll give, this player was like a recreational player. I'm going to give him a little bit of a bigger range than the previous. We'll give him all pocket pairs, all the suited. We'll give all the suited broadways, ace jack off, king queen off. You know, that they might 3-bet all of these here from this, especially from the small blind. So let's go street by street here. First we have on the flop jack 5 queen. And 5 of hearts. So let's take a look here. Our opponent is throwing out a c-bet. So let's see what they're going to be throwing a c-bet. Obviously they have their sets here. So they have 5s as well. 2 pair with queen jack. They'll be c-betting their aces and their kings. They will be c-betting their queens here, of course. They could definitely c-bet their jacks as well. They don't have many flush draws. Open enders. They can do this with gut shots. I don't think they're doing this with anything else. All right. So this is their range as we suspect it might be on the flop. Let's take a look at the turn. Turn was a 4 of spades. So 4 of spades also does not help his flush draws, of course. Okay, so if we shove here, what is he calling us with? He's calling us with straights he doesn't have any. He's calling us with sets. He's calling us with 2 pair. He's calling us with overpair. He's calling us with his top pair. And we'll say he's folding everything else. He's folding his jacks. He's folding all of his draws. Okay, so we have him folding. We'll say this is 58, 42% of the time. Let's take a look at our break-even percentage. So the total pot here before we shove. So forget about what I actually did in the hand. Let's just look at this if I was going to shove here. Is 99. And we would be shoving, and this will really even tell us it's even a good bet. We'd be shoving here. The effective stack is 65.7, so we'll just say 66. And our equity, if called here, is 11%. So we break even if the villain folds 29% of the time. Well, as we said here, our opponent is folding 42% of the time here. So the shove would 100% be the correct play. The most profitable play would be a shove here as a bluff. And so if we would have shoved anyway, we'll see the result was definitely a fold here. So again, definitely would have been a great bluff here, shove. And, you know, he orchestrated this by checking here, and we kind of had a feeling that, you know, that he didn't have a hand worthy of it, which is why we bluffed here. But I should have bluff shoved. Either way, the result not important. The fact is that that's what we did, and we should have shoved there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on SPR pots. I hope I explained everything clearly enough. I know sometimes I can ramble and go on and on. These videos are unedited, uncut. These are raw videos, and I just throw them up on YouTube. I'm hoping actually to have an intro video soon. I have a friend working on something for me, and I hope to have something soon. It'll be pretty awesome. But yeah, so this is my focus, SPR pots. I'm going to try and do this once a week where I have my study focus, and then I make a video on that study focus in the week. And that helps me solidify that I do understand the concept, because I want to be able to understand the concept enough to be able to explain it and, you know, and obviously utilize it in game when it comes up. So anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you like what you saw, please do me a favor, click the like button, subscribe, and until next time, PokerDad.